All right, this is on Roland Martin's channel, but I don't see his branding anywhere on this, and he doesn't show up. So I don't know if he stole this or he has an agreement worked out. Whatever the case, we have a couple of gentlemen here that are going to come in here and talk about Tyre Nichols. They're going to say some things that actually I'm going to agree with, and a lot of it I'm not going to agree with. But more importantly, they're going to make my video and audio productions look good. Hello out there. I am trying to get through.
With his powerful brainwaves cradled in the warmth of reasoning, it's time for Johnny Walker Dread to straighten you out on a thing or two. Emanating all the way from exciting Las Vegas, Oklahoma, it's the Johnny Walker Dread Show.
Peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Raji Muhammad.
No, that is not my audio doing this. That's actually the audio quality of the original production. As I said, they're going to even make my audio sound good, which is no small feat.
All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Raji Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in. Today, folks, we got a lot to talk about. Of course, we're going to continue our coverage around Tyre Nichols, 20 hours of footage around the brutality of our brother. We're going to break it down for you. Plus, later on in a little bit, we're going to talk about National HIV AIDS Black Awareness Day. That's going to be coming up this month. So it's a great time for us to talk about sexual health and wellness. Later, we're going to be checking in with my guy, Scotty, for Off Script Sports in the show where we're talking about for children. So we'll have those. We have been talking about the tragic case of our brother all throughout the week, and rightfully so, because there have been more developments in this case. Now, the last time we shared with you yesterday just some of the words and remarks that were made by some national leaders, Attorney Ben Crump, Reverend Al Sharpton, Vice President Kamala Harris, around what's the next step. Now it has been reported that there is up to 20 hours of footage detailing this situation, the brutality of Brother Tyre Nichols.
Okay, so it's about 1 hour of footage from 20 different sources.
The latest from ABC News. I wanted to just share with you just a little bit of this headline. But this 20-hour footage is yet to be released. According to the district attorney there in Memphis, Shelby County District Attorney Steve Mulroy's office confirmed that there is up to 20 hours of additional footage in the case. It's not yet clear what that footage may show, but the timing of that release is up to the city of Memphis, with the city issuing a statement earlier this week saying that any additional video would be released in the next few weeks. I want to take a moment to have a little bit of a conversation around this, because I think it's interesting that they're piecemealing this whole situation out. And I wanted to talk to my brother, who is a diversity, equity, and inclusion specialist. He's also an activist and advocate, and he has been on the front lines, especially on the issue of police brutality.
All right, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion, is welfare for those who took blow-off classes while they were in college. If you majored in social studies and stuff and you can't find a job, don't worry about it. We have created this whole new industry around diversity, and you can get hired for that. They do very little. The first things they typically do is they're tasked with developing a DEI plan. They spend a lot of time, but in fact, all they really have to do is just find an existing DEI plan on the web and just simply modify it. And no, you don't have to tailor it to your institution. So if you're wondering why your tuition's so high, there it is. Well, that's part of it. And of course, the DEI department of a university has to have a vice president, probably a manager, and 4 or 5 other staff. Hundreds of thousands of dollars every year spent on it. And as far as I can tell, they don't do a whole lot.
I want to welcome back to the airways my brother Shanedu Akorfor. Shanedu, my man, how are you, sir?
Hey, Raji, I'm good. Good to be here with you.
Yeah. He's here to make my video production look good.
Yeah, brother. Crazy circumstances all throughout the week around this case. Let's talk a little bit about this new announcement that's come out of Shelby County's district attorney's office, saying that there's really up to 20 hours of footage that is yet to be seen by the public, and that the city is saying that there's going to be released within the next few weeks. In a case like this, so sensitive, such a high profile case, I'm wondering, Brother Shanady, why didn't they just release the footage all at one time?
Well, there's a reason why. First of all, you might have to blur out some license plates. You might have to blur out minors. You have to edit out certain things that are probably not pertinent. And 20 hours of video is going to take a long time to edit. And keep in mind, it's not like there's a person down at the police station who has nothing better to do than to edit that video. So, yeah, it's going to take a long time to get through it all.
Because it seems like if you start piecemealing it out, it only extends the pain. It only extends the discussion, as to what's going to happen next. It really doesn't bring any, and I think most of all, it does not bring any closure to the family, even after the funeral, even after yesterday's, after the press conference the other.
That's not the purpose of releasing the video. We're not trying to bring closure to the family. And as far as what it does to our mental health, because they're releasing this thing one bit at a time, don't watch them. And that way you foil their evil plot.
Of the day. So why do you think that they're kind of piecemealing this whole process out?
It's a good question, and
Actually, it's a terrible question, but go on ahead. They're not piecemealing it. They're waiting to release all 20 hours in one shot. That's why it's taking so long. I mean, they could just release an hour at a time over the next few weeks.
I would love to get benefit of the doubt, but we're not sure. If I'm not mistaken, I think this footage that they're releasing, if I'm not mistaken, is the footage from the mounted police security cameras that were actually within the confines of that area that was already there. So I think it's a high crime area or high trafficked area, if I'm not mistaken. But nonetheless, here's what we all know. When things are recorded, whether it be your phone or a body cam, it takes nothing to upload. It takes nothing. I'm not sure what the thought process is, especially if this is not new evidence. I guess we would need to see and examine what point they're trying to make. It's good to get as much evidence as we can, but from the circumstantial evidence that we have already, if this is some type of ploy to downplay what we all saw and what we all know, that could be very, very dangerous.
Wait, are you trying to tell me that releasing this extra footage is designed to diminish the impact of what's happened? Really? I have an idea. Don't watch it then. But keep in mind, if the police chief had said, yeah, we have this extra 20 hours of footage here, but we don't want to extend the misery and the suffering anymore, so we're not going to release it, they'd be all over it. They would go ape shit about that. So you can't win.
But I'm kind of trying to be on the side of erring on caution, to not let my emotions drive my cognitive thought.
Actually, that's a pretty good strategy. And he doesn't do a bad job here. I mean, as much as his green screen is like crap, he's pretty rational for the most part.
Right. So I think that's a good point. I mean, you're saying that this could be a situation where, not to say that those officers were justified in the brutality of the brother, but giving us a more greater context, right? Mm-hmm. And I'm in agreement with you, Shanadu. That is super slippery. That is super slippery, right? And again, it's like we're still trying to recover from seeing the first set of the first few minutes of the footage. Now we're going to be hit again with something else.
Don't watch it. And what's this? We're trying to recover. Look, you watched the video. Yeah, it was disturbing. It made me angry, and it made a lot of people angry. but ultimately we kind of got over it. If you're still feeling traumatized by the whole thing, then I think that you're mentally weak. Now, if you were like the parents, okay, I can understand that.
And it always going to raise more questions. It's only going to, that's what I see happening. It's
Well, that's good. If it's going to raise questions, then that's the reason why we release these videos.
only going to raise more questions, especially if you have on that footage, and most likely this is going to be the part of the footage. Why didn't the ambulance take Tyre? Why did it take them so long to leave the scene? You know, are we going to see officers and paramedics standing around and talking while a man is bleeding and dying on the ground?
Well, you see, the footage might actually answer these questions. It might raise further questions, but again, that's how we learn.
And again, that's traumatizing. That
Hmm. I'm sorry, I'm tired of it. I'm tired of hearing that word trauma bantered around. You're not traumatized, okay? The parents might have been traumatized by seeing what happened to Tyre Nichols and maybe his friends for a while, but none of us were traumatized. In fact, I notice you're here on this channel creating videos and bantering back and forth with your friends. You don't look traumatized to me.
that's triggering, right? So I'm not quite sure how this situation is going to play out, folks. I want you to join us in the conversation. Post your comments in the chat as we're streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, and on BlackStarNetwork.com. But that's traumatizing. Real Brooklyn checked in on this. He said, "Look, it's probably has been edited. That's what Internal Affairs IA does in the Public Relations Department. Lord, there's only 24 hours in a day. These cops must have been doing the most to have 20 hours of this injustice."
Wait, these cops must have been doing the most to have 20 hours of the injustice. Again, it's not 20 consecutive hours of footage. It's probably 1 hour sections taken from multiple cameras. And it's going to take a long time because they're probably going to want to synchronize that. Each camera is going to be taking a certain snippet of a certain time, and they're going to want to go ahead and synchronize that up. That's a monstrous job now that I think about it. But they don't have to do that and leave it to us. But the trouble with that is I have a feeling everybody would be very confused very quickly.
To release the footage in pieces sounds like it's a play to change the narrative.
Oh, give me a break. That's stupid.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if that's the case, I wonder if the and I'm and I, you know, you tell me this if you think the same thing on this, Real Brooklyn. I wonder if the family has been privy to these 20 hours of footage. Now, Sinead, you and I have both been
Well, maybe they have, maybe they haven't. Who cares? It's not an issue.
as on and a part of demonstrations and marches around police brutality, of course, with Freddie Gray in Baltimore and other police brutality cases. I'm trying to see, is this case going to go against the grain of how police brutality cases are handled, or are we going to still see the same old thing? The one thing that I can say,
In other words, are we going to be able to get these cops convicted without due process? That's what he's wondering. That's what he's hoping. And those pesky amendments and pesky presumption of innocence and these whole things about being proven beyond reasonable doubt, they just get in the way.
that it may go against the grain on is the processing time to charge those officers. And as Ben Crump has been pushing and has been talking about those 20 days, like trying to get some resolution to this issue within a 20-day time span. What's your take on that, bro?
Yeah, I mean, this is, in my opinion, this is yet another drop in the bucket. Like I said, I like to kind of try to keep my emotions out of it and just keep my cognizance up front, because I can recall having the same conversation when Floyd died, George Floyd, when Alton Sterling died, when Tamir Rice died, uh, Laquan McDonald. I remember saying that this will be such a difference. And I think Laquan McDonald was as much as what, 5, 6, maybe 7 years ago. I think what's important here is that once precedence is set, once we have the data from that video, and I do want to make this clear, we're hoping that videos are not doctored.
Okay. Again, DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. He's not a big time thinker. Doctoring a video, come on, man. Use some critical thinking skills that, well, unfortunately, you don't have. They are not going to be doctoring the video. First of all, everybody on the planet is going to be looking for it. Number two, it's a felony. Nobody is going to doctor the video and risk going to prison for what? What would you gain from it? We already have tons of footage that probably put these guys behind bars for a long time. How are they going to be able to doctor the video to make these guys look innocent? We heard this in that one case in Kansas City where the claimed that the police had doctored the body cam footage where they had that one girl with the gun, and we heard that all the time, and it was insane. And guess what? We didn't hear any more about that. It looks like she had a gun. I'll see if I can post a news story about that in the description below. I just thought of it just now, and I can't remember that girl's name, but she had a gun. Let's face it.
But I do think an editing of the video is important in the sense of truncating it, because the entire kerfuffle, if you will, with the police was not 20 hours. I think what's most important is about 30 minutes before everything started up to about 30 minutes after.
30 minutes before it started? What are you wanting to do? Watch the guys eat donuts for like 25 minutes? You only need about 5 minutes prior. You only need to see what the cops saw as far as what Tyre Nichols was doing. Now, if something extraordinary happened in the 30 minutes prior, okay.
I think that is a good range to see what was happening, what didn't happen, to see if people came back to the scene, to see, like you said, were the EMT folks just standing around? Were they instructed to stand around? Is there audio related to this, or is it just a visual representation? But I think I don't want to get into the business of making any comparisons between this and what has happened before. At this point, I would love to see the attorney take all of this data and make some of the greatest cases that he can make. But more importantly,
oh no, the attorney? Crump? Yeah, I'm sure he's a real statistician. Any kind of work he does is going to be highly suspect. Well, not really. It's not going to be suspicious at all. We know it's going to be doctored. We know that it's going to be pure propaganda. You can't trust Benjamin Crump as far as you can throw him.
That when the case is made, that this is now used as a springboard to assure that this is not happening. I think the questions that no one is talking about is the woman, I think she's a Black woman, who led the Scorpion unit. This same unit was disbanded in Atlanta, a very similar unit. My question becomes, if that unit was disbanded in Atlanta because it didn't match protocols, why was it allowed to be had in another district? Are police communities, are they communicating with one another? Are there a shared knowledge? You know, if I'm in California, I'm currently in Baltimore, but if I'm in California and I get pulled over, a police can look me up and know that I'm from here. But then my question is, when police units are disbanded, especially for egregious activities, are those informations not flagged somewhere in the
if you got pulled over and you got arrested or something, yeah, they're going to keep your records. They don't scrub your arrest record just because they disbanded the unit. The Scorpion unit, unfortunately, has been really badly named. I don't know. I mean, I know they name these things really tough lingo like Scorpion. Ooh, we're here to keep the peace in our community with our Scorpion unit. I mean, that's just ridiculous as hell. I'm not saying they need to be named Daffodil Unit, but you know, you could name them something like the BELS 4 or whatever. You know, just don't make it sound like a gang. But it's not the same unit. They had different purposes entirely. And after talking to Strategic Eyes, I'm starting to actually lighten up on the police chief a bit. She did run the Red Dog unit in Atlanta, and she got into trouble. She even got fired for a deal for a cover up of a sexual scandal going on. Of course, that didn't stop her from becoming major, but I don't think that her creation of the Scorpion unit was necessarily that bad of a thing. I mean, Memphis is a rough place. And if you're going to fight crime in Memphis, you're going to have to get pretty tough. Unfortunately, I think that these officers overdid it, but no, they weren't pulling people over in Mayberry. Memphis is a tough place, and after a while, these cops get pretty aggressive and just all around nasty. It's kind of natural. They shouldn't have killed Tyre, though.
The law enforcement system, like we need to know things about that as well, so that we don't at least see the same thing happen again in this way.
Absolutely. Around how they're going to create a sentiment so they can take that same sentiment into the courtroom. And so it's going to be interesting. But I'm for and back into the conversation around this, because I think that's the other good point, that if people are being exposed to this, right, it's like the city or even the district attorney may be putting it out there to create a certain sentiment around how they're going to create a sentiment so they can take that same sentiment into the courtroom. And so it's going to be interesting. But the greatest concern that I have about this whole thing, Brother Shanadu, is taking our people, taking this community, taking Tyre Nichols' family through this process again from a different angle.
They don't have to watch the videos. Okay, they can just look away. And keep in mind, he's basically saying, well, by releasing these videos, the prosecutor is probably trying to taint the jury in favor of the officers. And of course, if he withheld it, then he'd be saying the same thing. You cannot win.